Hello. This will probably be just another extension of the paradox video I just made. Um, and it's going to be more along the lines of the paradox between stupid and genius, and how sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Uh, what appears to be stupid is pure genius, and what appears to be genius is purely stupid. And I think we've seen that in our lives. I think I've seen that examples of that. Uh, and you know, when you think something is completely genius and it turns out to be completely stupid, it usually has very, very bad results, very bad consequences. And when you think something is stupid and it turns out to be extremely genius, it has very good results, very good consequences. And a lot of that has to do with expectation. Something that you think is stupid, you have very low expectations for. Uh, Something that you think is smart or genius, you have very high expectations for. And when none of those things pan out, you're very surprised by the results, good or bad. And, not the only reason, but one of the reasons you're not seeing my face right now, and it's because I don't want you to think that somebody that looks like me is intelligent, uh, because they're not. Looks does not come with intelligence. Um, you can have the most beautiful people in the world and be dumb as rocks. Uh, and you can have the ugliest people in the world and they'll be dumb as rocks. So looks doesn't really pan out to be a good way of judging someone's intelligence. Um, Now, you can say someone like Bill Gates is very intelligent. I don't think he is. He's on the Epstein list. He's been disgraced. All his foundations and the connections he had with the foundations that he created because of me uh, are no longer there. They won't talk to him. They don't want him to come to their meetings or their conferences. They're asking him not to show up. So, how do you, in the same breath, say he's a smart man? He has money, but like I said before in the other video, money doesn't mean you're smart. He was big in the computer world. Well, so was his father. His father was an executive at IBM. So the apple didn't fall far from the tree. So was he really a genius or was he just an opportunist? And I think that's more of what he was. He had the opportunity and he ran with it. So he dropped out of Harvard. How smart is he? People think he was crazy for dropping out of Harvard. Obviously, it didn't matter, but did it? Uh, so I think the scale on which we weigh intelligence is is not a good scale, and it doesn't always give you the weight you want. So, well, the accurate weight, it's just it gives you a number, but it means nothing. Like an IQ. Somebody might have an IQ, but they can't tie their own shoes. You know, so is that person smart? I don't know. And that's why you would say to somebody that can't tie their own shoes, you would say they're stupid. You would say they're not a genius. How could they be a genius? They can't tie their shoes. But at the same time, they very well could be a genius. Uh, Steve Jobs was a genius, and he didn't wear shoes. So, he didn't take showers either. So, and people couldn't work with him. They had to work the night shift because people couldn't stand him. So, he has his own company that he created, fired him. So, that's not the resume of a smart person or a genius. It is the resume of a genius, but not the one that, when you have a child, you don't tell them, don't take showers, don't wear shoes, be annoying as hell to anybody that's around you, and you'll be successful. you know, that's not the recipe we promote or sell to our kids. You know, we sell to our kids, take showers, wear shoes, wear nice clothes, smell good, be nice to everybody you meet, and do good at school, get good grades, you know, get a job, work it for the rest of your life, and you'll have a happy life, which is completely and 100% is not true. It's the opposite. So, it's just the society lies to us and on a continual basis. And it doesn't lie to us because it wants to help us. It lies to us because it wants to control us. It wants us to be good little kids and good little adults that don't break the law and don't question anything. But on the other hand, there's the flip side, which is the dumb and the smart too, is because they do want us to break the law. They need us to break the law. A huge industry lives off people breaking the law. The prisons, the courts, the correctionals, bail bondsmen, everything. They all live the the uh, the tick the meter lady. They write your tickets. They all live off you breaking the law. And without you breaking the law, they would starve, and they don't want to starve. It's just like with the DWI laws. It was I think it was 1.5 was considered a DWI when they first started DWI laws. 1.5, and they keep lowering it. They keep lowering it because society adjusts. Society learns. Oh, I can have this much and not be a DWI. Well, when you get to that level, then what the government does is lower the DWI to another level, where now if you have that much, you are a DWI. And they want you to be a DWI because they make a lot of money. Insurance companies, lawyers, jail people, they make a lot of money off of DWIs. And when nobody's qualifying for a DWI, it becomes a big problem. And that's why they lower it. And, it's becoming a bigger problem now because they really can't lower it anymore. They've done what they could. And that's why they've legalized pot. But the biggest problem with pot is they don't have a breathalyzer for pot. They don't. They can't test you when you get pulled over to find out if you're illegally high. So believe me, that is a Rubik's cube they're trying to figure out. And once they do, they'll be arresting you for driving while under the influence. You know. But at the same token, they tell people don't drive drunk. Uh, and society has adjusted. Alcohol is not very popular. It's going down in popularity. You don't see the commercials you once saw in the past of alcohol related commercials. They're hiding alcohol. They put it in bottles or cans that don't look like they're alcoholic bottles or cans, like hard lemonade. You think it's lemonade and it's really alcohol, you know. So, it's like they're trying to trick you. And they've gotten rid of the bars because the insurance for the bars is way too high and nobody can afford to open a bar and pay the insurance. And maybe the bar will be successful for 6 months, but because bars are trendy, they go out. Nobody goes to them anymore, and then they have to shut down. And nobody wants to start a business just for 6 months, you know. So you have that as a problem. And pot is something you do alone or in your basement or in your house. It's not really there are only pot bars. And, uh, I know in different countries like Amsterdam, they go to a cafe and they have pot. And you have to smoke it in the cafe. You can't smoke it on the street. Very strict law. Even though pot is legal in Amsterdam, there are very strict laws on pot in Amsterdam, and it's not as free willy as you think. And we will go to that. We will go to that extreme eventually. Right now, it's loose because they want to get you addicted. They don't want you to. They want to encourage you to do it so that you eventually can't stop. And then they can put all the rules on it. Uh, kind of like smoking with cigarettes. There were no rules about smoking for a very, 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 very long time. You could smoke indoors. You could smoke anywhere. Now you can't smoke anywhere. So, and you're addicted. So it's torturous. When you go someplace and you can't smoke. So that's why now vaping has taken over because vaping doesn't have all the negatives of smoking. But a lot of times now what you see is no smoking and no vaping signs. They've just added it. So you can't vape. And I know most and a lot of people do. Anyway, uh, but we don't know the long term effects of vaping because it's so new. And it might not even be uh, the nicotine in the vaping that's the danger. I don't believe that is so much the danger as the metal, the metal components that are in the vaping machines. and you're inhaling burnt metal. And I think if you really broke it down, that is going to be the most detrimental. Lead poisoning kind of thing. So, I don't know. Time will tell. But again, people that started vaping, a lot of them, when vaping first came out, a lot of people vaped because you could buy one pen, and they said it was equivalent to like 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes. So you could buy one pen for $10, or buy 3 packs of cigarettes for $40. So everybody went for the vape, and they figured they'd quit smoking because they're no longer smoking; they're vaping now, and then they could just put away the vape and not vape anymore. But that didn't work out because people got addicted to the vaping. So smart and stupid, see? They thought they were smart, but they were stupid. And uh, a lot of your young people, and that's why a lot of these industries, they live off young people, like the gambling, the sports gambling especially, lives off young people. And and young people are very susceptible to get rich quick schemes. They fall for that all the time. Ponzi schemes are ripe for young people, and it's because they lack the knowledge, they lack the experience of being ripped off, of being scammed, and they don't think with that mindset that someone's out to scam me, and they just want my money, or they just want my bank account, and they do, but they don't see it that way until it's too late, and their bank account is empty, or they're in debt. They have a loan shark that has a lot of money against them and wants them to pay up right away. And anybody could be a loan shark, and anybody can loan from a loan shark. So the field is open now. Uh, the same as the bookies. Bookies. Anybody could be a bookie, and people that use bookies are not particularly smart. They think they are. They think they are. They think they're a genius. They're going to get rich. You know, and they don't. So like when Einstein came up with E equals mc squared. You know, now he didn't invent anything. E existed, c squared existed, m existed, and he just arranged them in a way that was pure genius. Now, when it first came out that he did this, people denied it. People said it didn't work, wasn't true. They set out to prove him wrong, meanwhile proving him right. But the goal wasn't to prove him right. The goal was to prove him wrong. And they just didn't believe that E equals mc squared could be as genius as it actually is. And the same with my God code. 1 plus 9, 1 times 9. And you have the God code. Genius, pure genius, because it's so simple. And something so simple can't be so genius. But that's what genius is. It's simple. And, like your iPad. Look at all that your iPad does. I'm taping on one right now. But it's simple. If you look at the iPad, It's not very complicated. It does extremely complicated things. It's capable of extraordinary things. You can watch a mirage of movies, porn, TV shows. You can make movies. You can make porn. You can make anything you want. You can do math equations. You can draw pictures. You can create art like never before. You have a mirage of colors to choose from. I mean, the spectrum is endless, but yet it's just a piece of glass. So something so simple, yet so genius. And that's why Steve Jobs was a genius. Did he have help? Of course. But he planted the seeds that turned into the iPad, which was the iPod. That was the first seed. And then the iPod Touch became the iPhone. So, it's just a progression and perspective. So, anybody out there that you think is dumb, don't be so quick to think they're dumb. Look further, you know. I mean, don't look at what they look like. Like Bill Gates looks like he's a genius. He's a little short little guy with glasses. Uh, he looks like the geek from Revenge of the Nerds, and he's not that much of a genius. He lost his family. He lost everything. Maybe he has money, but he might lose that, and that would be all he had. He had the respect of Warren Buffett, and now Warren Buffett won't even take his calls. So, it's just, and you look at Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, and he never built anything, never made anything. He just bought stock. He traded in companies, and he created Berkshire Hathaway. And he doesn't live like he's the richest man in the world. He lives in a house he bought for like $50,000 when he was young with his wife and kids, and he's very humble, and he's very well respected because of that. And he didn't go on Epstein's island. He's not on Epstein's list, and he never will be. But yeah, and when he started out, people didn't think he was a genius. People didn't know what he was a surprise. It was like all of a sudden Warren Buffett came out of nowhere and was the oracle of Omaha. So, like I said, if you think someone's dumb, don't don't be so quick. And people think I'm dumb because I wear a dress and I get my nails done, and I wear lipstick for once in a while, but not really. I used to do that. Lipstick dries my lips out, so that's why I don't really like using it. Uh, but I do it for fun. I love wearing a dress. You know, I'm laying here right now, totally naked, but I'm in my bedroom. I think that's okay. And I don't care. And, when I get dressed, I'll probably put on a dress. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to wear. Uh, but my roommate's blind, so my housemate or whatever you want to call him. He's blind, so I could walk around naked all day and he wouldn't know. Yeah, but I don't. But I could. So yeah, uh, but but like I said, some people that are totally geniuses, they have a doctorate degree and they can't tie their own shoes. So there is a disparity between smart people and I don't know if you call it smart people or stupid people. I mean, I don't know that stupid people are actually born stupid. They're created stupid by the school system. The school system creates stupid people. That's why I'm not stupid because I didn't go to school. The high school, the high school and junior high, and I don't know about how much grade school, but like you say, everything you needed to learn in life, you learned in kindergarten. Well, I didn't even go to kindergarten, so I don't know about that. But junior high and high school is all about indoctrination and brainwashing and dumbing you down. They're making you stupid in those places, and they're very successful. They're very, very successful. But if you want your kids to be smart, withdraw them from school. I know that's a paradox. How could I say that? But it's true. Because if you want them to be stupid, then make them go to school. Yeah. And it all starts when you're young. Because when you're young, sets up what you're going to do in the future. That's why we always look to our past to see. The past is a great predictor of the future. And what? If you rely on a teacher to teach you, then you don't rely on yourself to teach you. I never had a teacher. I relied on myself to teach me all that I know. I've read my own books. I don't need a curriculum. I don't need a deadline. I read what I want to read. I do what I want to do. And my interest is always within the realm of learning. I always want to learn. But, and I never think I'm too smart. A lot of people, when they graduate high school, they graduate college, they never pick up a book again. They never, like, when's the last time you read a book? Oh, in college. When's the last time you read a book? Oh, in high school. And people like that are generally stupid. So, you know, uh, it's just tough because, uh, and I'm not saying reading a book is a recipe for becoming smart. A lot of people wrote books and they're not smart, you know. So it's arbitrary. It doesn't matter. Uh, but you should be always open your mind to the idea of learning something new and not going into something thinking you know it all. You know, it's like a doctor when he comes in to examine you. He has to look at you. He has to feel you. He has to run tests because he doesn't know it all. He doesn't know what's wrong with you. I mean, hopefully at the end, when he's done examining you, he'll know what's wrong with you. But that's because he'll make an educated guess on what's wrong. He still could be wrong. He still could say, I don't know what's wrong with you. But they don't tend to walk in and say, well, I know what's wrong with you, and I haven't even looked at you. And if you have a doctor that hasn't looked at you and says they know what's wrong with you, all I can say is run. you know. And with the internet, we're getting more of that kind of doctor. So, they hear the symptoms and they got the diagnosis and they're done. And it doesn't always work that way. Symptoms overlap. Just because you have this doesn't mean you have that. Yeah, so not who you think is smart is always smart, and not who you think is dumb always dumb.